It's time for Uncle Hank. Question everything with M. Kalani Souza and Uncle Hank Ferguson.
Hey there, gangy, and welcome back.
Hello, Mike.
I'm here with the indomitable Uncle Hank Ferguson, and me, I'm Kalani Souza. And it's good to be here with you on this new year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Holy makahiki ho.
Hey, and you know Hawaiians, they got a new year for 1 quarter of the year.
Yeah.
And when we heard you guys only had 1 day, it was like, oh, poor things, yeah, poor things. But speaking of poor things, this year, we poor things are going to do something completely different. The last 20 years, as you know, Uncle Hank has been spearheading our presence down at the Iolani Palace. And we are going to do something so out of the box this year, so different. And Uncle Hank, you want to tell everybody all about it?
Yes. Okay. So yes, you guys know. I mean, for 20 years, I've been real persistent about doing these vigils at the Iolani Palace, twice a year, in fact. But this year, you know, I'm looking at this pandemic going on, and I'm going, you know what? We have to really, really think about what we're doing here, because we are a very vulnerable culture. With this pandemic the way it's going, with the COVID going the way it is, now it's got a variant that's 75 times more transmissible. It's like, you know what, brah? I cannot speak for others, but I can speak for me, and I hope I share this correctly. We have to consider our families, okay? As much as we'd like to be together, sometimes it's not necessarily the smartest idea, especially when you think the fact that you're going to have to go home and you're going to be with your kupuna and your children.
Okay, wait, let me get this straight. So you're saying you're not going to be at the palace this year?
I'm not going to the palace, and I'm not going to invite anybody to come with me.
So you're thinking that because of the pandemic, the epidemic, the smarter course of action is for us Kanaka to just keep our distance, social distance, be smart about.
Sure. To me, it's using common sense, and Hawaiians are really good with this common sense stuff.
Yeah, and I know that we can all appreciate we have historic trauma. I myself lost my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, all in, a year and a half span due to, the tuberculosis outbreak. So
right.
Disease outbreaks on small Pacific islands, 2,500 miles from the United States,
exactly.
2,500 miles from any landmass of sizable note is a bad idea, right?
A very bad idea. We lost, at least two-thirds of our population due to those kind of pandemics.
Wow. Some people place that as high as 90%, but I can appreciate your position of not wanting to expose family members.
Yeah. I mean, in this day, what I'm understanding is that the Queen's March from the mausoleum down still may be happening in a much smaller
safe
version.
Distance, right? It's
and
outdoors.
And I understand they're going to do it virtually too, so others can participate at home, which is great.
Virtual participation as a community, right?
Yeah.
I applaud that. Make the technology work for us.
But I have to tell you, there is rumor that some other silly stuff is going on, which can't have the good without the bad. But let me tell you about this part. I understand there's a group of people going down to the palace that think they're going to take it over.
Wait a minute. Take over the palace. Isn't that what you guys were protesting against? The fact that the Americans were taking over the palace grounds way back then? It's kind of crazy that other people are...
It's problematic in itself. I mean, this has been done so many times. It's never done correctly. But on top of it, bro, and I just have to say it, these guys are conspiracy theory guys. They don't believe in masks. So when you tie in the COVID,
smacks of what we witnessed the last few days.
Bruh.
I mean, the last couple of days, we're witnessing these conspiracy theory guys all over Washington, D.C. I mean, you got lizard people, what is it, QAnon, all of a sudden there's a pedophile
Antifa,
ring,
you name it.
in the United States, led by Tom Hanks. I read on some really crazy website. What's going on with all of that? What's happening with the United States government?
I'll tell you what, it makes me think, I think to myself, Geez, that's what they did to our palace.
You know,
Except, these guys are now, they're turning on themselves.
right, so we're waiting for them to have a rectification, a redistribution of at least social justice in Hawaii, and these guys are attacking their own capital.
On top of that, they're doing it without masks. I don't know if they're trying to help.
Well, I
this
think
COVID
when
thing
we
go along and wipe out a
realized
bunch of people.
74 million Americans, right, and 45% of them by this morning's data set, 45% of them support the president and the violence in the Capitol.
This is crazy.
Right.
It's all crazy stuff.
Hey,
It's like-
that's half the people that voted. That means 24 to 25% of the United States is getting ready for a civil war.
And hate to say it, but those older guys, they're kind of nuts, bro.
Hey, this disease
kinda nuts.
is rampant, right? It's spreading all over the internet. They're talking about attacking the Capitol again before the inauguration day. So as Hawaiians, maybe all we got to do is just sit by and wait and watch the Americans.
That's another reason why I'm saying you might want to reconsider going to the palace, because we can't afford to lose even one Hawaiian.
Not one
Not even
Hawaiian
one
should we
Hawaiian.
lose to this disease, and especially to this disease called Trumpism.
Yes.
And I've lost a lot of friends here in Hawaii to
Yes.
this Trumpism. I don't know why they think that that's the solution to everything. Following a crazed maniac as if he's a religious leader. If he is religious at all, he's the Pantichrist. I mean, this guy has no moral
Well said,
center,
man.
right? No
Yeah.
moral center. He's on his third wife, his fourth global.
You know what blows my mind? I didn't hear any of the guys who went down there to actually storm the palace saying, hey, what happened to Trump? Didn't he say he's walking with him?
He did say
He
he was
walked right
walking with him,
to-
but he didn't. He walked right over to the car barn.
Yeah, yeah.
You know the car barn? That's like HRT's old car barn in Honolulu. That's where they park the buses. And they parked the buses over there. Trump, he walked right over to the car barn, and he threw all his followers under the bus.
Bruh,
Hey, what's up with that, right? He's talking
they don't
like,
even talk about that part.
hey, I don't know. That's like some crazy stuff, don't you think? It's like a disease. Trump
The
is
same
like the
kind of disease
coronavirus.
that they're trying to bring over here.
Right.
In the way of casinos.
Casinos,
This is-
gambling.
Gambling is
You
a
know, just like
terrible
we've been
disease.
gambling with the Americans in charge of Hawaii, right? The way I look at it is all the money from all the corporate efforts in Hawaii actually leave the state. They don't even stay here with the people of Hawaii. It's just all these people extracting the cash cow. Goods here in Hawaii costing 65% more than the highest city in America. And the PUC just authorized the missionary shipping companies another 42% increase.
Oh, the young brothers, yeah.
Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
bruh.
Because they got to pay off the guys they got down at the docks who are their muscle for political muscle and keeping all of us Kanakas in line. Is that a fair assumption?
It's a fair assumption. I don't think it's an assumption. It's a fair analysis, I believe.
Oh, an analysis of the
Analysis,
situation that we're all facing. I get it and I appreciate it. And what will we do when America is showing us images? People storming the Capitol. America looks like it's on the brink of a civil war. And yet, the major part of their military force is still out here in the Pacific.
Yeah, yeah.
Still
Exactly.
here in Hawaii. I mean, an undue amount of money spent here. Look at those 3 roads. 3 of the most expensive roads in United States history. And what do they do?
All on one island.
All of them on one island. They call them an interstate. It doesn't even reach another state. It
Doesn't even reach another island.
It doesn't even cross the entire island itself. It only ran. H1 ran from Fort DeRussy and Fort Ruger and Diamond Head and the FCC station to Fort Shafter and the FEMA station over at Fort Shafter and the Army Response Team. H2 took us all the way out to Pearl Harbor and all the way out to Schofield Barracks so we could connect. And as a bonus, they threw on a little spur that went out to Barbers Point, and they all ended right there.
Yeah.
The Barbers Point installation over here at Pearl Harbor at the gate, and over there at Schofield Barracks, the bang, that road just comes to a stop right there at the end of the gate. And then H3, arguably the most expensive road in U.S. history, connects Pearl Harbor Gate through the mountains right in view of Camp Smith Marine Base, where some people say they stashed the gold. And then
I
out
understand that too,
to
yeah.
Kaneohe Marine Air Corps Station. These are the most expensive tax-paid roads in United States history. They're on one island and they support the military, as Hawaii has always been seen a critical military position. Am I correct in that?
That's absolutely correct. In fact, we have the whole Indochina buildup throughout the entire Pacific, and there's a lot of controversy going on because even the South Pacific Islanders are not happy with the United States and are reconsidering whether or not they want to opt up to another
those
contract.
compact agreements are all coming up right now, right in real time in the Pacific since World War II, where America somehow managed to exert itself over everybody's exclusive economic territory and convince us all that America is part of the greater Pacific. That's so interesting. I mean, it seems like America is just taking up 1/4 of the screen, that sort of northeastern flank of the Pacific. I don't know what China and Japan thinks about America's assertion that it owns the Pacific.
I can tell you that they don't agree with it too. They don't agree with it too.
Well, aren't you in conversations with the U.S. military about this very thing?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the last time we had a conversation with them, you actually took part with this. They actually recorded it. We're waiting for our copy to see exactly what they did because we were able to bring up the fact that they have no lawful authority in Hawaii whatsoever. And there's ramifications to their actions as spelled out in Public Law 103-150.
Right.
Ramifications.
But they in fact feel as if they're operating under the onus of their own provisions, their own government.
Which is why this whole idea of casinos is really, really bad.
Right, so this casino thing that's going on, it's almost like another disease. We feel that on Oahu.
Yes.
They're wanting to put a casino in, they're wanting to bring in gambling, and yet U.S. health reports indicate that gambling and gambling casinos are detrimental primarily to minority populations.
Yes.
Like the Kanaka population here in Hawaii.
There's a double twist to this whole thing because they talk about, they'll tell you all the wonders of the casinos, but they don't tell you, well, first of all, they want to do that on Hawaiian homelands. What they're not telling you is the background of the federal recognition process. Because before you can get a casino on Hawaiian homelands, you have to be identified as a federally recognized tribe.
Wait, slow that down.
Okay.
You have to be identified as a federally recognized Native American tribe?
Yes. I just want to read you something. This is really...
That's the Native American Land Act. All right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just reading off this thing called National Gambling Impact Commission, Study Commission. Native American gaming. Anyway, under the federal state tribal triangle, it states federally recognized Indian tribes are grouped under a legal status of defeated nations.
Defeated
nations. Without this recognition of this designation, constitutionally, they're little more than a private association.
So we're a private association of Kanakas unless we somehow got into an altercation, a war, and became a defeated nation of America. So...
And these tribes, both collective units and individual members, are wards of the federal government.
Okay, now that's important. So then we have to surrender our free will and become wards of the United States.
That is exactly it.
Isn't that like a plebiscite, an individual plebiscite?
And that's why this is so toxic, because what they're doing in this whole world of distraction, this is part of the distraction of this whole military thing too, is throw gambling out there so the focus gets on, we might get these riches. Somehow people think that all Indian tribes get to gamble. That is not the case, and it's important to look at a paper like I
So
have.
they have to be federally recognized, and
First.
that means that they have engaged in a war with the United States, lost that war, lost possession of their lands, and become wards of the federal government. Now,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that mean that they no longer own their lands? That the United
Yes.
States owns their lands?
Yes, as I was saying here. As such, they enjoy or suffer restrictions not applicable to other Americans. For example, reservation land is not owned by the tribes or their members, but instead is held in trust by the federal government.
Let's go over that again, gang. So if we were a Native American tribe, it means we would no longer have possession of our lands here in Hawaii, but we
That's
would have
correct.
surrendered our lands defeatedly to the Americans, rather than the Americans simply took over the lands illegally and then pretended there was some kind of state coup here, when in
Well,
fact
okay, so-
we found their transmissions admitting to the fact that their military had eyes on the prize, as it were.
So if you remember in Public Law 103-150, which was the apology bill,
Yes.
they made it very clear that the Hawaiians never relinquished their inherent sovereignty
Right.
over their lands or their government.
I mean, the importance
So what
of
they're doing now is coming in saying,
103-150
for a bunch of
is-
money, if you will just sign right
Yeah,
over
yeah,
here,
yeah.
that's-
Exactly. And
that
so
means
what we
you're-
have is
you're directly
corrupt.
relinquishing your rights.
We have corrupt people in Honolulu, in
Hawaiians.
the state,
Hawaiians.
Hawaiians as well as non-Hawaiians, who are looking for a cash cow out of this thing.
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Hawaiian Homes structure of this, they talk about the gaming commission, and there may be one Hawaiian on the gaming commission. Okay. However, if you look at this on a very big picture, Hawaiian Homes is a federal act. They're not. Hawaiian Homes is not an Indian tribe,
No,
and
no, it's
so
not.
it appears to
It's
me
again the federal
the
government
state of
pretending.
Hawaii is pretending to be that
They are
Indian
indeed.
tribe.
They are
like they
are
have been
pretending.
all these years. You remember when Akaka said, if you don't take the Akaka bill, you're going to lose like 17 federally designated funds,
right.
like the Education Fund, Healthcare Act.
But
all
these
kind
are
of things.
funds designated for defeated peoples who are wards of the federal government. The fact is, we're illegally occupied by the United States government. The U.S. military uses this as a launch point for military intimidation around the world.
That's correct.
Am
That,
I
no, that's
seeing that
absolutely
correctly?
yes, most certainly.
So then actions like this last president took against Suleiman of a country separate could be deemed international murder.
I think so.
And they're running these programs using satellite information that comes out of the Pacific, probably. NSC, the CIA, aren't they both located on Oahu now?
Oh yes.
And I
Oh,
guess
yes.
the Central Intelligence Agency is not supposed to be able to operate on American soil, yet they operate here.
But see, this is not American soil. I wish we would get these things straight.
Aha!
Because it
Gang,
isn't.
you see what's happening. This is not American soil. And so the real big issue here is, why is Hawaiian Homes wanting the Hawaiian people to surrender their sovereignty to the United States, to become wards of the state, to be treated as a Native American? Gang, this is America. And this is the American continent. It's perfectly understandable why Alaskans are considered part of the American continent. However, this is Polynesia, and this is Hawaii, and oh my, it's not even on the same tectonic plate. It's on a completely different tectonic plate.
Yeah, yeah.
Why are the Americans so confused, and they continue to think that we are somehow part of America? We are not part of America. We were acquired illegally during the Spanish-American War, and we were not part of the Spanish-American War, other than the Americans stopped here to fuel their ships.
Exactly.
So let's get our history lesson straight, gang. Let's figure out what we're going to do here, because there's a sickness going around. It's called greed. And that greed is pushing us ahead during these pandemic times into crazy economic decisions. HTA throwing the floodgates open and letting tourists come into the market when there's a new strain of the coronavirus, 75% more contagious. And if I remember correctly, it's asymptomatic for the most part.
Yes.
You can't tell the person is sick who's transferring the disease to you. So,
You
why are
gotta
we
stop and use your head and side on caution.
why are we following the lead of the Americans? They clearly don't even have control of their own country.
Well illustrated a couple of days ago, huh?
Hello, everybody. So there's no reason for us to be holding our breath and waiting for direction from Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. needs to be calling out to all of us to keep these chuckleheads under control. Well, we're here in Hawaii, and the military is here in overwhelming numbers.
And getting more and more
And
by
if
the
there's
day.
a civil war breaking out in the United States, what's the military going to do? Do they return home to their respective sides? Or do they hold the line in the Pacific and stir up a mess with China, the Philippines, South Vietnam,
South China Sea,
India,
yeah.
and Iran? Hey, stay tuned. There's so much to ask questions about here on Uncle Hank. Uncle
Really
Hank?
important to know, when they talk casinos, don't just think money, okay? Think
No.
about the loss of your inherent sovereignty and your land.
And think
All
about
of
the
it.
pressure and the disease that comes with those casinos.
And you go on any Indian reservation, you tell me how happy they are, okay? You tell me that all this rape and starvation and health problems and stuff like that is not going on there. What you get to see is what they want you to see. The few Indians who've been able to make money off of this. And just because you're a tribe, by the way, just so you know, doesn't mean that you automatically get gaming, okay? And tribes are being denied every day.
Yo, let's all be cautious. Let's all commit to a future together here in the Pacific with each other. I'm Kalani Souza. We're here with Uncle
Uncle
Hank
Hank.
Fergustrom.
Hey, Hawaii.
Yo, so good to see you. We'll be here the next time on Uncle Hank. Question everything.
That's right, brother. Aloha, mate.
Come be a part of a minority view.
Ao he pau ike, i ka halau ho o kahi,